I never imagined my life would end this way. The last beat of my heart was followed by a feeling of absolute emptiness, as if my soul were being ripped from my body. The first thing I felt was an indescribable pain, as if my entire being was being torn apart by invisible hands. I opened my eyes, but I was no longer in my home or in my bed. I was in a completely foreign place, a dark abyss where the darkness felt so heavy you could almost touch it. The air was thick and dense, as if I were breathing fire. The ground beneath my feet seemed to be in constant motion, vibrating as if I were a living beast. Suddenly, I felt a scorching heat envelop me completely, as if I were being consumed by flames. But I wasn't dying. I couldn't die, at least not there. The sight around me was so horrifying that I had a hard time understanding what I was seeing. There were shadows moving erratically, crawling across the ground and emitting guttural screams that pierced my ears. Then I realized that I wasn't alone. Dark figures beside me began to materialize, beings I had only heard of in legends and stories before. They were fallen angels, demons who had been banished from heaven for their rebellion. Their eyes were empty, like wells of despair, and their faces distorted by hatred and rage. I saw in them the same evil that had permeated the earth for centuries. Their wings, once resplendent, were now broken and dirty, as if they were vestiges of a lost glory. From one of them, the greatest, a voice emerged that resonated loudly in my chest. "Welcome to the end of the world. You've arrived at your rightful place." Their laughter, like a distant echo of storms, enveloped me. They looked at me with a penetrating gaze that seemed to read my soul and said, "There is no redemption here, only damnation." At that moment, I realized that not only had I died, but that I was in the most feared place of all, hell. In the distance, I saw a devastated landscape, an apocalyptic scenario where flames consumed everything in their path. The ground cracked, and the sky, covered in black clouds, seemed about to collapse upon us. I saw on the horizon an imposing figure mounted on a white horse, followed by 3 more horses, one red, another black, and another pale, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the heralds of destruction, who were approaching. The vision was so vivid that I felt as if time itself had stopped at the magnitude of what I saw. At that moment, the fallen angel at my side whispered to me, "This is how the end of time will be. Judgment Day is near, and everything you have known will be destroyed." As he spoke, the ground shook beneath my feet, the flames grew, and the air grew thicker and hotter. The earth tore apart, and the souls trapped in that place they suffered in a way that was impossible to describe. Screams of despair filled the air, a cacophony of pain and agony that seemed to have no end. I found myself pulled by the force of the vision as if hell itself were taking control of my senses. I traveled through that devastated landscape, observing the ruins of a lost humanity. The cities I once knew were now smoking rubble, and the people who walked through them were deformed shadows, souls condemned to wander aimlessly. It was the judgment of the wicked, those who never repented of their sins. The fire that consumes all will be their end, the demon told me in a cruel voice. As the ground shook, I saw myself again in the center of a great battle, a war between the heavenly hosts and the forces of evil. Angels with their swords of light fought against the abyssal creatures that wished to devour God's creation. The sky was divided in two, a conflict so great that it seemed the entire universe would collapse under its weight. Chaos was absolute. I saw the fallen angels, led by the Prince of Darkness, dragging millions with them into the abyss. I saw the fall of Babylon, the symbol of the world's corruption, burning in the flames of divine judgment. In that instant, a deadly chill ran down my spine. I remembered the words of Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Matthew when he said, "Many will be called, but few will be chosen." Doom was sealed for those who never repented. I saw the righteous lifted up into a glorious light, into realm of peace and salvation, while the wicked were dragged into eternal torment. The devil beside me laughed, but his laughter was empty. "God's mercy has run out," he told me. "This is the end. Judgment will be relentless." The feeling of hopelessness that invaded my being was overwhelming. I could feel the presence of evil everywhere, like a force that devoured all hope. "Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear," the fallen angel murmured, quoting the words of Revelation. The truth was there before me, and I couldn't escape. It was then that I saw a glow in the distance, an intense, almost blinding light that seemed to come from the depths of the universe. I remembered John's words in Revelation, "I saw a new heaven and a new earth," because the first heaven and earth had passed away. It was the end, but also a new beginning, a light of hope in the midst of chaos, as if a door had opened for those who could still repent. Before I could even comprehend what was happening, I felt the hand touching me was a warm handful of compassion. I looked up and saw a figure that did not belong there. It was a radiant being with a light that eclipsed the darkness. "Do not be afraid," he said. "Your time has not yet come. There is hope for you." I felt a peace I had never experienced before. The vision of hell began to fade, and the air grew cooler. My body trembled, not from fear, but from a strange feeling of relief. Suddenly, the ground stopped shaking, the shadows disappeared, and the darkness dissipated. I found myself back in my bed, breathing with difficulty, feeling as if it had all been a dream. But the angel's words continued to echo in my mind, "The end is near, but there is always hope for those who believe." The apocalypse is not just a punishment, it is a call to salvation, to reflection, to faith. Now I know that the final judgment is real and that our decisions have eternal weight. The end of the world is not just a cosmic event, but a matter of life, or spiritual death, and although hell exists, so does the light that can save us from damnation. I woke up again, this time with a cold sweat running down my back. The feeling of anguish was still fresh in my mind, but something had changed. I couldn't forget what I had experienced. I had experienced the vision of the end, the apocalypse that had unfolded before my eyes. However, what troubled me most was the angel's message, "There is hope for those who believe." I felt a new revelation. I saw the image of a great army, an army that did not fight with weapons but with the truth, an army of purified souls walking toward the final battle against the forces of evil. It was the army of the Lord, and I was part of it. No matter how many fell around me, no matter how many strayed from the path, God's army would continue to advance, and its victory was assured. The following weeks witnessed a spiritual awakening in my life. I saw more people join the faith, as more hearts were touched by the message of the gospel. The moments of despair gave way to moments of hope, and I saw how the light of Christ began to illuminate the shadows of the world. But I knew this was only the beginning, that the work was not yet finished. The end of the world as we knew it was already underway, but it was also the beginning of something glorious. God had a plan, and I was called to be part of that plan. A sense of urgency filled me, as if the time was short and something bigger was underway. The apocalypse wasn't just a distant event, something that would happen in the distant future. It felt close, as if it were on the verge of happening, and not only in the outside world but also within me. I knew the world was on the brink of collapse, that judgment was near, but I also understood there was a chance, one last chance for those who wished to listen and repent. No matter how much suffering awaited us, no matter how dark the circumstances, the light of Christ would always shine as a guide to save us. When I looked up at the sky, I saw that the black clouds that had previously covered it were beginning to disperse, as if the sky itself were testifying to the victory of light over darkness. "The end is near," I whispered to myself. But so is salvation. Somehow, I felt that, although the end of the world was imminent, the beginning of a new era was also beginning for me.